What's going on, guys? The NHL 20 franchise mode trailer is finally here, and the first thing I want to talk about that I'm super excited for is the fact that we can now use alumni players, legends, and alumni teams in franchise mode. I know everyone wanted to do that last year. Well, we can now do it in NHL 20, so super excited for that. We can have a team of Gretzky, Lemieux, whoever else in franchise. We can also probably edit the players now as they're on actual teams. Just gives us so many more options. I feel like that'll also allow us to make a ton of different videos, so if you guys have any ideas, leave them in the comments section. But without further ado, guys, we'll get to this franchise video. So basically, it kind of just goes through everything. Like, it's quite a long video, to be honest with you. I think it's about 25 minutes, so I'm actually going to try and shorten it up a bit. So it's actually by Gern Sumel, who's the franchise mode producer. I've met him a bunch of times now. Very cool guy. So basically, it just talks about how they've added coaches, and adding coaches allows them to add a line chemistry system now, and how that kind of all works together. They've also added the trade finder option, which is huge. I mentioned all three of these things in my kind of full NHL 20 feature set video, but we go into a lot more detail here, and we can actually see them on the screen. So I guess we'll just go to the first thing here, which is the new coaches. Now, these coaches you can see here are not real-life coaches. There's no Babcock or anything like that. They're made up, but they do have a face at least, which is awesome. Unlike the player, which is just like the silhouette. They have an actual face. I forget how many there are. I think something like 130, so there's quite a bit. Hopefully there's not too much repetition. And looking at the first screen here, you can see at the top it has all the stats about our coach. So his style is balanced, overall A-, so he's a pretty good coach. Salary there, $2.3 million. I feel like if you have owner mode turned off, this probably won't matter. And then you can see he's actually got a breakdown there of his different stats in each category. So offense, defense, power play, penalty kill, pretty self-explanatory, you know, how good he is at coaching those different things. Now, teaching, this has to do with rebuilding. So if you have a young rebuilding team, you want his teaching to be as good as you can get. B- is okay. I'd say you want like an A or above if you have a rebuilding team. Kind of help those guys along, make them basically reach their potential faster. It can also even increase their potential if you have a really good teaching coach. If you have a bad teaching coach, like say a D and a rebuilding team, a lot of your top prospects, they might end up turning into busts as they didn't have a coach that was able to kind of teach them and help them grow. Now, if you have a veteran team that's already an established team that's kind of like cup contender, say like the Pittsburgh Penguins, then teaching isn't as important. You can get away with a C, maybe even a D in teaching if all of your players are, you know, past their growth point. They're all like 27 plus. Teaching doesn't matter as much. And then finally there you have coach influence. And sort of like how teaching helps the coach grow the players, coach influence helps the coach grow the rest of his staff. So maybe your goalie coach goes from a B to an A, stuff like that. Also, guys, forgot to mention the coaches have a teaching specialty. This one here is a generalist. It says it'll help grow all players on your team. I assume he's kind of like the medium level where he'll help grow young and old players a little bit. Then you have guys that really focus on growing the young players a lot. And then maybe guys that really focus on keeping those older players at their potential opposed to when they decline when they get older. Next up, we actually have the coach's morale. As you can see there, it says happy, pretty self-explanatory, has no concerns. The morale is actually no longer smiley faces, like you've got your big smiley, small smiley, neutral face, then a little bit upset and angry. It's now actually a bar just kind of showing where his morale's at. So right there, he's like 3/4 of the way to full. I'd say that's pretty good. And you can actually see that his morale is broken down to 4 different tiers. So he's got team performance, it's pretty high, management's high, coaching staff's actually the lowest one, so maybe you'd want to bring in a new goalie coach, new assistants, or something like that to help boost it. Player relationships there is also pretty high. Next to that, you can see the best coach chemistry, so I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name. Lefebvre? I don't know, it's probably French. You would not want to fire him as that would obviously make this head coach upset. Best player chemistry, so Eriksson, Edler, and Beagle all play well under him. Low coach chemistry, so there's a coach maybe you'd want to get rid of, and that's affecting that coaching staff morale. And next here, guys, we have the statistics page I think is really cool. On the left there, you have the coaching record, so that's his all-time record. Obviously, this is a new coach, currently 9-9-1. On the right, you have awards won, so Stanley Cups, President's Trophy, Jack Adams Award is now going to be given out. So when you go to the awards page, you can actually see which coach won the award every year and what team he's on, as well as the Calder Cup. So let's say he originally started out as your AHL head coach, and then you really liked him, fired your NHL head coach, you could call him up to be your NHL head coach. He could have both won a Calder Cup for you and eventually a Stanley Cup for you. So I think that's really cool. Another thing I was thinking with this too is if you start with a brand new coach at the start of your franchise and you keep him the entire time, this page would kind of work as like a record page for your franchise. You can see your total win-loss record because you've had the same coach the entire time. You can see how many Stanley Cups your team has won, how many President's Trophies. Calder Cup won't work because he's going to be your NHL head coach the entire time, but still it kind of act as a record for your franchise, which is something we've been missing. Your franchise, after a 10th season or whatever, just ends. Now at least you have something to look at, but of course, you have to start with a brand new coach, and you can't fire him, otherwise it's not really going to work. Also, guys, you can see here, it actually keeps track of your coach's record season by season, just like a player, so I thought that was a really cool addition as well. And next, you guys, you have the scheme fit page. As you can see here, our coach has a balanced scheme, and the team fit is 68%, which seems like decent. If you look at down here on the right, you can see Stecher actually has a max scheme fit, so he fits perfectly into his role with this coach. Bo Horvat there is pretty high. Same with JT Miller. Someone that's a little bit lower would be like Tyler Myers there. Looks like he's maybe 50%, even a little bit under 50%. So it kind of just shows you how the players are fitting in with the coach. And after that, guys, you can actually see the team strategies the coach likes to use. So because this guy has a balanced style, he likes to roll all 4 lines. It actually shows you like all his different strategies. And then, of course, you can see his actual line strategies there. And on top of this, guys, you're not going to be the only one that's hiring and firing coaches. The computers will do it as well. If they feel like they have a Stanley Cup caliber team and they go on a 10-game losing streak to start the year, they're going to fire that coach and hire a new one. And when this happens, you'll get a notification saying a coach was fired. So let's say it was like Chicago firing Quenneville. I know not real coaches in the game, but somebody that's really good. You could see that and be like, you know what? Our coach right now is just okay. Maybe we should fire this guy and scoop up this really good coach that just got let go before somebody else does. So you can see here in the list, tons of different coaches to choose from. They have overalls, and Gurn says how the coach overall really does impact the team. So if you have an A+ coach opposed to a C- coach, your team's going to play a lot better with that A+ coach, assuming that the team fit works out, right? I'm sure there's some mix or whatever where an A+ coach with a terrible team fit is about equal to a C coach with a perfect team fit. I'm sure a situation like that would probably equal out somewhere. And like I mentioned before, guys, you have 8 total coaches, 4 in the NHL, 4 in the AHL. If you fire your head coach, the NHL associate coach takes over. He's essentially like the higher ranking of the 2 assistant coaches. And then, of course, you could choose to just not have a head coach the rest of the season, see how the associate coach does, or immediately hire a new head coach. And just like how NHL players in the franchise can become scouts once they retire, they can also become coaches. And they're going to like look like themselves on the bench. So I was thinking how cool it would be if you're playing deep into a franchise, Sidney Crosby retires, becomes a coach, you hire him, you go into the game, you see Crosby staying behind the bench in his suit, coaching the team. I can't wait for that. Also, guys, on this screen, you can see a bunch of the different teaching specialties. So you can see the one coach here focuses on forwards, a bunch of them focus on defensemen. You have the generalist, which we know kind of focuses on everybody. The veteran one, so he's more worried about your veteran players leading the team. I don't see one here for rookies or young players, but I'm sure there's one like that too, again, for that rebuilding team. Another new feature with coaches this year, guys, is coach conversations. Basically, it's going to be the coach telling you things the team needs. So right here you can see Coach Cooper wants a veteran presence on the team, so it's actually going to open up the interview page, which is pretty cool. So he says, this team being a rebuilder and young, we need a more of a veteran presence in the locker room. Then you can decide basically what to tell them. Do you agree in saying you'll do that? If you do, though, you have to make sure you go and get a veteran. Otherwise, he's going to know you agreed to it, and he's going to be pissed when you don't. So, like, his morale is going to go down because you lied to him. You could disagree, and you'll probably lose a bit of morale, but not as much as if you lied to him. Or you can try and persuade him to just kind of see things your way and, not worry about the thing he wants and just kind of let you run the show. So initially here, Gurn's going to agree by saying, I think you're onto something, what should we do? Then he says, I want you to go and sign or trade a veteran over 30. So at that point, like, that's what he wants you to do. You got to go sign and trade a veteran over 30. Maybe you're thinking you'd add a 28-year-old or something, and getting a guy over 30 is just too old for you. So at that point, you have 2 options. You can either persuade him by saying, veteran presence takes away a spot for our young guys. Also, the fact you only want to have to go and give up assets for this veteran if your team doesn't need one, and, like, your kind of forwards are already good. Or you can make the promise and say, yeah, I'll trade for him. But again, if you do that and don't, you're going to lose morale. Now, if you do that, you're going to gain morale, and your coach is going to like you more. But I feel like if it's me and I've got the team set up how I want it to, I'm definitely going to do everything I can to not have to listen to the coach. But it is cool how there's different options, and based on what you choose, it'll affect your coach's morale, especially, too, if you lie to him or you actually come through. So you can see by making that promise, it's +5, disagreeing, it's -5, but if you lie to him, it's probably like a -10. So better just to be upfront early than say yes and then not actually follow through on your promise. And another new feature with the coaches, guys, is when you go to hire staff here, you can actually interview the coaches, which is so cool. So basically, after you interview them, you'll kind of see whether or not they fit your team. On the left there, you can see current local fan base is typical, market size is large, team status is hopeful. Let's say you get a weird coach who wants a small market team, but a contending team. You're going to be like, all right, our team and you are just not going to match. It's not going to work because obviously if you hire that coach, let's say he somehow says yes, his morale is going to be really low when he sees that your team is not at all what he's looking for. And on top of this, not only can you now do coach interviews, but you can also do draft interviews as well. So let's say you're looking at Alexis Lafreniere first overall next year. You do an interview with him, and I don't know, some red flag pops up, makes you not want to draft Lafreniere for whatever reason. Maybe it's speed, attitude, whatever it is. you'll actually have even more information now on the top prospects that you interviewed. And next, you guys looking at line chemistry, which I think is very cool. So basically, every single line is going to range between -5 and +5 overall based on the chemistry. So you can get a huge boost from it, or it could be a huge negative to your team. There's a ton of contributing factors. Obviously, the coach is a big one. You can see here, Bo Horvat matches the coach in terms of the carry dump bias. Same with don't block and offensive strategy. The cycle, the efficiency is just kind of neutral there. You can also have a red X. As well, too, player type to a forward. So the player type's a big factor. Do you have just 3 snipers on the line? That's not good. You want to mix like a playmaker, power forward, a sniper. Same goes for playing guys out of position. Now for that, usually wingers can play on either side. It's not too big of a deal. It's more the centers being out of position. Ice time allocation, you can see this coach wants to roll all 4 lines, so it's more of a balanced approach. Now if you're a team like Edmonton with McDavid and Draisaitl on the top line, you're probably going to want to have different allocation where you play those guys as much as possible. This would be better for a team with a lot of forward depth. You can see their lineup management is balanced, so basically trying to make balanced lines. They're not trying to stack one line too much. Let me explain why they got Ferling here on the first line opposed to JT Miller, but having said that, he doesn't actually fit there. As you can see, he's got an X for the cycle shoot bias, so whatever the coach wants him to be doing there, first line left wing, doesn't really match his game. So if you run into a scenario like this, you should be putting someone else in that spot to try and maximize your team chemistry. Now, when you look at a player, you can actually see everything going on with him and his chemistry. Josh Leivo here, very high coach satisfaction, so the coach loves him. He's like, I guess, Zach Hyman playing for Toronto. You can actually see he's got favored coaches, which is really cool. So let's say there's a coach out there that you see a few of you guys on the team already like. Would be a good idea to bring him in, even if only as an assistant coach. He's also got unfavored coaches. So let's say you trade for a guy on an old team and somehow that coach ends up on your team and he had bad history with him, he hates him. His morale is going to be down, but you can see here Leivo fits perfectly. Everything's a green check mark except for carry dump, which is neutral. Scheme fit. He fits best on the line 1 actually, worst on line 2, but still, it looks like everything is pretty high there. Like, it's well past half. It's about 75%. So Josh Leivo, whether he's first, second, third, fourth line, he's going to fit into your lineups. Also, too, guys, I'm looking at the ratings right now. I don't believe these are final ratings. In case anyone's wondering about that, same goes for potentials. So with chemistry being so important this year, guys, obviously a +5 bonus is no joke. I was just thinking, imagine you had a first line all 90, like say it's Boston's with Marchand, Bergeron, Pastrnak. They get the +5 bonus. Now they're all 95s. How insane is that? With it being so important, they've actually had a new scouting tool. So here you can see Max Jones, Pro Scout Assessment, forward line 2. So that's where he's going to fit in on our team with our current coach. Troy Terry there, all power play lines. It's really isn't great, so he's not even fitting in well on a forward line. Same with Hampus Lindholm. He's the #1 defenseman, but he's not even going to fit in on one of our defensive lines very well, so tells us he's not really a great fit for our team. But then you look at a guy, say, like Ryan Getzlaf. Now, Ryan Getzlaf, as you can see there, fits on our forward line 1 and all our power play lines, so Ryan Getzlaf does fit a bit better, so clearly he's a power forward. Whatever it is, our coach likes him a lot more than some of the other guys. And lastly here, it says that Adam Henrique fits on our penalty kill line. So it's something I just kind of realized too, is it's probably going to actually factor in the guys you play on your special teams. So you want to be playing really offensive guys on your power play, and then your penalty kill, you want to be playing more speedy two-way guys. You don't want to be playing kind of slow snipers. They're not going to fit on the penalty kill. So I feel like the way you construct your team with editing the lines and everything is going to have a much higher impact on the actual kind of record of your team, which is going to be awesome to see. And next, you guys looking at a couple of the new scouting tools with the prospects. The first one there in the bottom left-hand corner is Scheme Fit. So again, just kind of showing you how they fit into your coach's scheme. This defenseman here likes to cycle and he likes to pinch. Is that going to fit into your coach's scheme based on where you kind of see him making it into your lineup? And with that being said, you can actually see when they're going to be NHL ready. So NHL ETA here, he's NHL ready. It's confirmed. It's got the 4 bars there. So obviously this is the guy that they've scouted. It's pretty cool actually that we can see this now. It'll say NHL ready, 1 year out, 2 years out, 3 years out. I think max is like 5 years out. So maybe if you're, say, a contending team, you got a second-round pick, and you find a guy that's NHL ready, maybe he doesn't have as much potential as some of the other guys around there, but you're taking the guy that's NHL ready because if he can jump in your lineup right away, that's more valuable to you than somebody who, say, 4 years down the road is better than this guy is right now. So I really like the addition of that. I think it's awesome. And finally here, guys, we have the Trade Finder. This is like the kind of third big addition on top of coaches and chemistry. So this is something I think Madden has, and maybe even NBA 2K has as well. Basically, if you're a team, you have a player you want to trade, you put them into the Trade Finder, and you'll have computers offer trades for you. So right here, they have Erickson and a first-round pick in the Trade Finder. Ottawa's saying, all right, we'll take Erickson with that first in exchange for a third and Tyler Ennis. So not only does this show how the Trade Finder works, it also shows you can actually trade away bad contracts now, which is so awesome to see. In NHL 19, I've tried to trade away Erickson, guys like that, Lucic, with 4 first-round picks to a team like Ottawa with tons of cap space, and every single time they say no. Like, even when there's only like a couple years left, I think one time there was literally 1 year left on Marleau, and I could not trade him away at the beginning of the season with 4 first-round picks. It was insane. So the fact you can actually do this now is cool, and their return there with 3rd and Ennis is pretty reasonable, I would say. And again, you didn't have to like go through and look for who's got cap space to do this in Ottawa, what's going to be like the perfect thing it's going to take. You put in the trade finder, and there you go. So I think that's awesome. It's going to make trading so much faster now. Obviously, you're not going to always use the trade finder. Sometimes you're going to look yourself or whatever, but you can obviously go in and edit the trade and say, you know what, I want Ennis in a second to make this happen, and if they're not willing to do that, it's not worth it. But this kind of gives you a starting point, and with all the cover busts I've done, I've spent hours and hours just kind of looking through the teams, who's on the trade block, can I make it work with the cap space, the roster spots, re-sign next year, waivers, all this stuff. So the fact that Trade Finder kind of just does all that for you nice and quick is awesome. I wish we would have had it so long ago. Another thing I want to show you guys I'm really excited about, if you look at the trade screen right now, you'll see both teams have exempt contracts, 1 out of 40 under the contract spot. So these are players that are playing in the juniors, whether it's WHL, OHL, QMJHL, and in real life, they do not count against your 50 roster spots, but in-game in the past they were, and that's why you had a bunch of teams losing prospects to free agency. We would go in there, search by two-way, sign all like the best prospects for free. That should not be the case anymore. Teams should be able to hold on to these prospects because either they're an exempt prospect or with having prospects on that exempt list, they're able to keep the other guys. So that's awesome to hear. Also too, with this, trading should be a lot better. You're no longer going to have to make sure you get a guy coming back just for the roster spot. As well, computers should be making more trades. It's just easier when you have a bit more flexibility, not always being at that max 50 out of 50. And Gurn even mentions in the video how he does see a lot more action out the deadline and just more trades in general because of this, which I think is awesome news. So that's all the new footage they showed us, but at this point, Gurn actually goes over a bunch of minor changes to franchise, and some of these I actually think are pretty major. So the first one is that points per game actually affect a player's trade value. So let's say you have an 82, and he's currently on a point per game pace, and you have an 89, and he's got like 10 points at the deadline, and let's say they both have equal, trade or potential, sorry. Normally, the trade value for the 89 would be way higher. Now, the 89's trade value is going to be quite a bit lower because he's only got 10 points right now, and the 82 is going to be much higher because he's on a point per game pace. So now their actual play is going to affect their overall during the season, not just afterwards, after there's been a rating boost, based on the last season. So that's awesome to hear. And same with that, it actually affects what they ask for in terms of salary. So let's say you have a 95 overall player, he puts up 100 points, he's going to ask for 10 million, he puts up a point per game, so 80 points, he's going to ask for 8 million, stuff like that. He also mentioned that this is going to fix the issue where you have guys in the minors asking for $2 million plus, even though they've never played an NHL game. Granted, they're good enough to be in the NHL, but they have not proven anything yet. And you guys will actually kind of see this in action in a couple days. We had to re-sign Wallstedt after he had only played in the minors, and he asked for quite a bit of money, so it's good to hear that that's fixed. Too, with that, they say how teams will now put bad contracts on the trade block to free up money to sign their big-name RFAs. So take a team like Toronto, Tampa Bay, even Winnipeg. This year, you guys saw it constantly, for sure. Mitch Marner, Braden Point were always in free agency. Pretty much always. Like, I think 99% of the time, because Toronto and Tampa were not proactive. In real life, Tampa trades away JT Miller, they trade away Callahan. Toronto trades away Marleau, trades away Zaitsev to make sure they have the cap room to sign these superstars who you care way more about keeping the superstar than you do the other guys. So in game now, they're going to put these, not even bad contracts, maybe just kind of like mediocre contracts you're not as, invested in on the trade block to try and clear cap space so you can keep your best players. It makes a lot more sense, and I'm glad to hear that. So hopefully won't see as many superstar RFAs in free agency. And real quick, guys, while editing, I realized I forgot to mention you can actually trade players now at the draft. They're on expiring deals for negotiation rights. So let's say you have like a Kevin Hayes or Winnipeg, you can't afford him. You can actually trade him to Philadelphia for that 4th round pick, which is better than nothing. And if you're Philly, of course, you get, first chance to talk to him and try and sign him before he hits the free agent market. Before NHL 19, didn't matter if you had McDavid on an expiring deal at the draft, no one was going to trade for him. So the fact that they fixed that is awesome to see. And next, guys, they've completely fixed how goalies work in franchise mode. If you played any franchise in NHL 19, you know the go-to strategy is getting some late picks, scouting well, and drafting a bunch of like elite or even franchise potential goalies in the later rounds. You then go and trade them for superstars because you have like 4 or 5 of them, and that's kind of just like the go-to method. Now that's not going to work on both ends of the spectrum. So first off, there's less elite and franchise potential goalies in the draft. But let's say you're still lucky enough to get that elite potential goalie in the 5th round. You try and trade him for like the 7th overall pick, some forward elite potential. It's not going to go through because goalies actually have less value now than skaters, which I really like because in the real NHL, that is the case. On top of that, wingers actually have less value now than centers and defensemen. Again, true to real life. So glad to see that kind of put into action. Also, too, with goalies, you're not going to see computers going out and signing Bobrovsky when, say, they have Carey Price in net. They're not going to be, signing that starting goaltender. They're a lot smarter now to realize we already have a starter. All we need is a backup. We don't need to go and get 2 starters. Same goes for trades. They're not going to be trying to trade for a starter when they already have one. And if you're trying to trade them a starter and they already have one, you're going to have to pay them a lot of money or pay them a lot of assets to make them take on that contract or just take on that goalie when they already have a starting goalie in net. So good to see that that's been redone because that was definitely an issue the past, I would say, 2 or 3 years. After that, too, they say with the trading, with the deadline, players with 1 year left actually have less value now, which is awesome. So again, with more roster spots, with players on pending UFA deals having less value, the action at the deadline should be crazy. And it says actually that their trade value is like less at the start of the season, and as the season goes on, it gets less and less and less. So at the trade deadline, that's when it's going to be the lowest. So you can try and get, rental guys from teams that are out of the playoffs for reasonable deals. Like before, team could be crap. They have an 82 overall, 36-year-old. They want like a first-round pick when really you should only have to pay like a third or something to get him. So really love hearing that. Again, just more trades, more action. Never upset with that. So a few more things they've added, guys. The first is a trade alert pop-up when a blockbuster trade goes down, which I think is really cool. I feel like a lot of times you're playing franchise and you really don't know what's going on in the rest of the league unless you go to the trade screen and you happen to see a superstar at the top of another team's, roster list. You're like, oh, I wonder how he got there. If I didn't see him in free agency last summer, he was probably traded for. Now you'll actually see that trade go through, and you can see what the team gave up. So it kind of gives you an idea what the computers are thinking. I really like, hearing that. Also now there's a actually sim engine setting for scoring. Everyone was complaining about scoring this year not being high enough, and this is completely fixed. Not only is scoring up in general, not only the franchises I've played, the franchises I've seen played, scoring is definitely more true to real life, but if you want even more scoring, you can turn it up to high. So there's a high, medium, low setting for scoring. The default, I believe, is medium, and I felt like medium was actually true to real life. It's higher than it is now in 19, so high would be, I don't even know, like back in the day, just crap goalies scoring like nuts. They also decrease scouting efficiency, so with those goalies, you always find that medium elite in the 5th round. It's going to be a lot harder now to find him, and then if you do, it's not as big a payoff. But again, I felt like it was a bit of a cheat in the franchise, so I'm glad to see that's been completely fixed. Even just kind of finding gems was a bit too easy, so the fact that scouting efficiency is decreased, you guys scout a bit harder, a bit smarter. I like hearing that. And the last couple of things I want to touch on here, guys, they mentioned that they tuned the medium grade prospects to be more hit and miss. I feel like right now, high potential is like 100% guaranteed, medium's like 90, and low is say 50. Now medium's gonna be more like 75, and there actually is a bit of a chance that the guy could bust, where right now, medium elite prospect pretty much never busts. So that's kind of good to hear. Just makes the franchise a bit more tough in my opinion, which I like. I feel like it's a bit too easy, even with trade quickly set to hard and all that stuff. They also mentioned how they tune the trade blocks for CPU teams. I know this year, there'd be some teams that would randomly put superstars on the block when they were in playoff contention, or maybe even just hopeful. Like, I think the one year we got Aho and Svechnikov from Carolina in the same deal. It's like, they should never have had 2 young superstars on the block unless they were going to complete rebuild, which I don't really think they were. So trade blocks should be a bit more accurate now for both what they have on the block and what they're looking for. Also mentions now how you actually see the original placements with the draft lottery, so you don't have to go and check the standings to see where teams jumped. You'll see, oh, Colorado was 7th or whatever best odds and they somehow got first, or if some team had the worst odds, you're going to know that they actually got first without having to go and check the standings. Another little nice feature, I think. On top of that, they've actually added a contract year for the expansion draft, which is huge. If you guys have done the expansion draft with a custom roster, you'll know it skips a year. So I know when we did it, Erik Karlsson was in free agency when he still had like 1 year to go, and there's some other players like that. Now, if you add the contract year, that's not going to be the case. It's the actual free agency, not the one from like the following year. So that is fixed. That's awesome for expansion team modes. And then finally, they've added an auto owner mode. So if you do that, all the arena maintenance and everything like that will be taken care of, but you're still playing in the owner mode. So you have to actually worry about how much you sign a coach for, how much you sign a scout for, which I really like because I don't really care about pricing my hot dogs, but I wouldn't mind having it on to make it harder to sign scouts, because right now with owner mode off, you can just pay them all whatever you want, and you really don't have to worry about it. So that is it, guys, for NHL 20. That is all the new features. Like I said at the beginning, I am very, very excited. I honestly think franchise mode is going to be the best mode in NHL 20, so cannot wait to get my hands on it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer them for you. If you did enjoy this, leave a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.